violence or no other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, I can still get shot by the police, but I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, YouTube? It's a Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's get into the video.
Violent attacks on the CTA are becoming far too common. Robberies, stabbings, and shootings just in 1 month.
Yeah, is the answer to fight these crimes unarmed security guards? Well, CTA thinks so. CBS 2's Jermont Terry live.
Uh-oh. So the CTA is the transit system in Chicago, okay? That's the train. It gets people where they need to go, much like the subways in New York, except they're not as populated. And guys, what you got to understand is that they are putting these security guards in unarmed and putting their lives at risk. And I can guarantee you they're not like heavily trained security guards, like combat training. It's going to be a whole bunch of Paul Blarts. You know what I mean? And it's not going to be a good move. And they're going to get the work from a real super gremlin on demon time.
Live at the Washington and Clark stop, where the CTA says it's deploying hundreds of these trained guards.
Brad and Erica, whether it's train or the buses, many CTA riders telling me that they feel as if they are constantly watching their backs. And tonight, CTA expects those extra security guards to also watch out for issues too. But will that be enough? Crime on the CTA is up 40% this year. We've heard from many riders who became victims.
Whatever they're doing, the CTA is not working. The L.
Oh, shoot. You heard her. She said it's not working.
Until they have police down there or some semblance, I'm not going to go down there.
Extra police officers are not coming. Instead, nearly 300 unarmed security guards the CTA hired to saturate the buses and trains, many getting trained in de-escalation and conflict resolution.
If anybody they should be teaching de-escalating training to, it should be their own operators.
CTA revealed how many guards are coming only days after this letter. Senator Dick Durbin and Congressman Chuy Garcia insisting more needs to be done to protect CTA frontline workers and passengers, given the alarming increase in crime on the CTA system.
And the CTA is going to get just like New York subways, okay? You're going to start to see these super gremlins get emboldened down there in the CTA. And they ain't playing with y'all, man. They out here.
But Transit Union President Keith Hill still wants armed officers.
This is a world-class city, a world-class transit. They deserve better.
See, the brother, he said, nah, it ain't gonna work. The unarmed, I'm telling you, these super gremlins will clap one of these. If you're unarmed, you're a security guard, oh, it's over. It's over.
And it's not just violence against CTA riders. Earlier this month, a CTA worker was pushed onto the Red Line tracks at Granville. Crews forced to cut power to the rail in order to rescue the worker. No one is arrested, but we know there's video of the attackers. CBS 2 pressed CTA to release the video of those involved. Our open records request denied, claiming the disclosure of the video footage would reveal the position of CTA cameras.
What's more important, where you got your cameras or protecting people that's taking our system?
And so far this year, there have been 432 violent crimes on the L's and the buses. We should point out that robbery and thefts are topping the crimes. Reporting live in the Loop tonight, Jermont Terry. Brad, back to you.
All right, Jermont, our thanks tonight.
Technology meant to help police crack down on crime is now raising concerns about privacy. Over the last 3 years, CPD has installed $420,000 worth of license plate reading cameras. Those cameras capture millions of plates each year, alerting police of any wanted matches. And although Chicago does delete that plate data after 1 year, Privacy advocates say that CPD shares that info with other departments with differing policies, leaving drivers vulnerable to hackers.
Let's talk more about this. We have Edyonko with the ACLU Illinois joining us to discuss. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. How are you today?
We are well. Thank you for being with us. So give us your take, why you think these plate readers are compromising our privacy.
Well, you know, first thing is of course that if I know where you go, if I know on a Wednesday night that you go to a bar or go to church or go to a union meeting, I know a lot about you. And so this provides an enormous amount of data about individuals and their cars and where they go and what they do. And by storing it for a year, you're gathering all kinds of information.
So let's keep it a buck, though. The reason why they're implementing these license plate readers is because there are a lot of carjackings. And you heard we just did the story on the CTA. If they robbing you on the trains, they robbing your car. So it's a really rough situation, okay? It's a really rough situation. I've always said that the super gremlins will be the ones to usher in the next huge wave of the surveillance state, even though we're already in a surveillance state. I mean, there's cameras everywhere. But with that being said, it's going to get... it's going to get even more within the government, because there are a lot of private companies who have their own security systems, but now the government is starting to put these cameras. I mean, they're spending millions of dollars on these license plate readers, and the citizens have concerns, but it's like you can't have both. Okay, you can't say, hey, we want bail reform, we want to give ankle monitors to alleged murderers and carjackers, and then at the same time say, oh, well, we don't want an invasion of privacy. Something has to give. Either you keep the super gremlins locked up so that they can't reoffend, okay, or recidivate, or you put cameras and surveillance out there so that when they do, and you know that they are, because there's an 85% chance of recidivation, or an 85% recidivism rate, you already know they're going to do it. So you put cameras out there to catch them the second time, so you can hit them with even higher charges. So you got to pick one.
That could be used in a variety of invasive ways. That's number one. Number two, this data is often stored in addition from the agency, the CPD in this case, who gathers it, is stored by third parties who actually market these cameras. And we don't know where that data is then sold or packaged or to whom it's given. So I think there ought to be privacy policies that are very strict and restrictive in how it's used if, in fact, we're going to put these new cameras out on our streets.
So what is the fear here?
And that's what Facebook got in trouble for, sharing data, okay? Now you see the government of Chicago doing the same thing, okay? And this is the police department. So they're taking that budget and throwing it into surveillance because they know that it works in catching carjackers.
This data is in the hands of a third party, you say. What could be the real world result of an unknown third party having all this data?
Them advertising to you. You're going to be driving around, hit the Wingstop, go back, and now you're going Wingstop ads all over your phone.
Information could be sold to third-party marketers who would be able to put together an even greater picture of who we are and where we go and how we act and how we behave. It could be, used or accessed by people who wanted to stalk someone or wanted to follow someone. There's a range of different concerns about this. Once you gather this information, then people's privacy are at risk.
You know, we've been looking at a lot of video of these cameras out on the expressways where we have seen quite an increase in shootings. You know, Ed, as well as I do, we've got a crime issue here in Chicago, and a lot of people want police to have tools to be able to solve it. So what do you say to those people who are saying, like, hey, if these cameras help out police, I'm all for it?
Yeah, I want a couple of things. First of all, I want to remind people that Chicago is already the most surveilled city in America. There are more than 80,000 cameras that are integrated into a system that's controlled by the OEMC.
So the most surveilled system city in America, and they still can't solve the murder cases. They still can't solve, I believe, the statistic I saw, if I'm not mistaken, they are only solving about 10 to 15% of these murders. The rest are going unsolved. And you know they have a high murder rate. So, it's not looking good for Chicago. Okay, they're just going to usher in an even greater surveillance state. And, you know, to what avail? If you keep letting the criminals out, then it is what it is. The super gremlins are going to continue to be on demon time.
And by the way, that's been in place over 20 plus years, during which time we've seen spikes and ebbs in violence that have come and gone. It hasn't made any difference whether or not we have cameras. Those things have happened. And secondly, if these cameras are going to be used strictly to address that violent crime, then what we ought to have is policies that say that they will be used only for those purposes, that restrict who has access to the data and restrict how the data can be used.
And so we're clear, Ed, so we're
we,
crystal clear on this. There are no privacy policies right now in place with regard to this data.
There is no requirement that there be a privacy policy. And if you've got a privacy policy from CPD, then you're ahead of us. We've not seen one from CPD. In fact, we've never seen a privacy policy for the 80,000 cameras that already exist.
We'll be talking more about it. Edyonko from the ACLU of Illinois, thank you for being here.
Thankfully, Lily Garcia's kids were not hurt in this incident, but terrifying moments for the family.
She called.
Who had their SUV stolen last night, just steps away from the Lincoln Park Zoo, with their 2 young children still inside.
I don't know what I would have done if my kids weren't there, anymore, and they just took them away just like that.
Lily Garcia, while still shaken up, is feeling lucky today after she and her husband were delivering a package last night, working for Amazon Flex around 8 p.m. to this 2100 North Lincoln Park West building, when carjackers pulled up and stole their vehicle.
One man just came, got in the driver's side, and started driving off when my husband tried to get in.
Dang. I'm telling you, these super gremlins sneaky. And it could have been burrito gremlins, who knows. But they sneaky, boy. They sneaky, just hop in the car. Ooh, they out.
The car, and at the time, he basically did tell me that he flipped the wheel over so the car would basically crash, which made the wheel pop on the right side.
Garcia says that popped tire is what she believes caused the carjackers to pull over, ditching the car less than a quarter mile away. Thankfully, with their 1-year-old girl and 5-year-old boy still in the back seat.
Wow. So the super gremlins will jack your car. They will jack your car with your kids in the back seat. And thankfully, the tire popped, because you don't know what they would have did to these kids. I've done too many stories on the super gremlins stealing the cars and doing unspeakable things to the kids. Who knows, man? It's crazy out here.
As soon as I saw him, I hugged him like I lost him for days, it's the most hardest thing, for your kids to just be taken away just like that, I don't care, the car, take it, but not my kids, not with the kids inside.
Police tell me there is still no one in custody while detectives are investigating. Citywide data shows there have been 596 vehicular hijacking victims so far this year. That's up 5% from 567 during the same time period last year.
I just, want justice in this case, for my kids.
In Lincoln Park, Stephanie Wade, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Medgar Evers, and it's a very tranquil scene compared to just a couple hours ago where a drive-by shooting
just took place. Excuse me, I'm getting live updates as we speak. I've just been updated to the amount of casualties from this drive-by shooting, and I'm getting reports that 2 people were actually declared deceased and 27 others were shot and injured, but are in stable condition. And although we must pray for the families of the fallen, we must also praise God for the aim of the super gremlin. If you want to know more about the victims of this crime, make sure you add BGZM News 17 on Patreon at www.patreon.com/blackgenzmindset. Also, don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and comment on the video to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this son violence in the streets. For more hard-hitting news coverage from the community, by the community, I'm Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
And cut.
All right, dog. Let's get the out of here before these niggas come back.
Whoa. Yo! Ain't that nigga J.
Nah, that ain't me. That ain't me.
He just went live
That
with
ain't
that
me.
funky ass
Yeah,
suit
that's
on.
that nigga. That's not me.
Hey, get that nigga.
Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia. Pray for me.
Terrifying carjacking with a mother. We're going to start tonight with a mother's terrifying carjacking drama. She watched helplessly last night as a delivery she and her husband were making for Amazon simply turned into a nightmare. A man pulled her husband out of the car, jumped in, and then sped off with her 2 children still in the back seat.
Dang, her husband just got... It sounded like he just got mollywiped. It sounded like he just got tossed. Up, get your ass out of the car. Like, they just manhandled him. Hey. Sheesh. I mean, I guess a lot of these men ain't holding up that protection end of the bargain.
Tonight, those kids are safe, but they are shaken up by this. NBC5's Lexi Suter live with this mother's harrowing story tonight. Lexi.
Stefan, this happened very fast, but this mother tells me it felt like an eternity. She walked out of this building, saw her SUV driving away, her husband trying to hold on, all the while knowing her 2 young kids were buckled in the back seat.
Bro, there's no way you are going to throw me out of a car with my kids in the back seat, bro. I'm going down with the car. It's not finna go down like that. Dude. He is lucky that that wheel popped, because if they would have took off with them kids and got off with the whip, he might be signing divorce papers right now.
It's a feeling this mother never wants to feel again.
When I saw my car driving off and then I saw my husband being dragged through the street, I was like, what is going on? Where are they taking my kids?
Lily Beth Garcia was finishing an Amazon delivery on a residential street near the Lincoln Park Zoo when her family of 4 was carjacked around 8 o'clock Wednesday night. The suspect pulled her husband out of the driver's side and took the wheel, getting away with the Garcia's 1-year-old daughter and 5-year-old son fastened in their car seats.
It happened in seconds where I didn't even know like what to do, if I should run what way, try to reach or call 911 or pay attention to my husband because my husband was, hurt.
Within minutes, police located their SUV just a few blocks away on Stockton. Their children still buckled up in the back.
The female cop was able to tell me that when they found the kids, they opened up the door, seeing if the kids were inside. He was crying and screaming, but they were able to calm him down and say, hey, your mom and dad are coming, so don't worry.
The Garcias made Amazon deliveries for extra money, but now say it's not worth the risk. This scary situation is a stark reminder of what matters.
Grateful that my family is okay, especially with my kids and my husband. That's all.
See, look at what these super burrito gremlins are doing. Messing up the business. Stopping the revenue stream. Stopping the income. Like, this is a whole nother stream of income that could come to this family, but now they're scared to even make deliveries. These super burrito gremlins are on demon time.
All that matters.
Detectives gathered as much evidence as they could off that SUV and say there may be security video to help them. So far, no one is in custody, but the work continues tonight. We're live in Lincoln Park. Lexi Suter, NBC5 News.
Glad the kids are okay. Thank you so much, Lexi.
We're going to start tonight with a mother's terrifying carjacking drama. She watched helplessly last night as a delivery she and her husband were making for Amazon simply turned into a nightmare. A man pulled her husband out of the car, jumped in, and then...
I'm still shook about a grown-ass man getting pulled out of his vehicle. Was my guy even wearing a seatbelt?
sped off with her 2 children still in the back seat. Tonight, those kids are safe, but they are shaken up by this. NBC5's Lexi Suter live with this mother's harrowing story tonight. Lexi.
Stefan, this happened very fast, but this mother tells me it felt like an eternity. She walked out of this building, saw her SUV driving away, her husband trying to hold on, all the while knowing her 2 young kids were buckled in the back seat. It's a feeling this mother never wants to feel again.
When I saw my car driving off and then I saw my husband being dragged through the street, I was like, what is going on? Where are they taking my kids?
Lily Beth Garcia was finishing an Amazon delivery on a residential street near the Lincoln Park Zoo when her family of 4 was carjacked around 8 o'clock Wednesday night. The suspect pulled her husband out of the driver's side and took the wheel, getting away with the Garcia's 1-year-old daughter and 5-year-old son fastened in their car seats.
It happened in seconds where I didn't even know like what to do, if I should run what way, try to reach or call 911 or pay attention to my husband because my husband was, hurt.
Within minutes, police located their SUV just a few blocks away on Stockton. Their children still buckled up in the back.
The female cop was able to tell me that when they found the kids, they opened up the door, seeing if the kids were inside. He was crying and screaming, but they were able to calm him down and say, hey, your mom and dad are coming, so don't worry.
The Garcias made Amazon deliveries for extra money, but now say it's not worth the risk. This scary situation is a stark reminder of what matters.
Grateful that my family is okay, especially with my kids and my husband. That's all that matters.
Detectives gathered as much evidence as they could off that SUV and say there may be security video to help them. So far, no one is in custody, but
they got them cameras, them license plate readers.
Work continues tonight. We're live in Lincoln Park. Lexi Suter, NBC5 News.
Glad the kids are okay. Thank you so much, Lexi.
5, a bill now headed to the governor's desk would pay for burying children killed by gun violence.
That bill is named for Mychal Moultry Jr., a little boy shot to death last year. CBS 2's Charday Gray spoke with his mother about that bill passing. Charday.
Well, Brad and Marie, Angela Gregg says the Mychal Moultry Jr. Funeral and Burial Assistance Act is a progressive step. Ever since her 4-year-old son passed, she's been...
Whoa, what happened to GoFundMe? So they had to pass an act to fund funerals for victims of the super gremlins on Demon Time. Okay? This is ridiculous, and I don't know if I agree with this move because it's almost like the state is admitting culpability. Like, yeah, it's kind of our fault. It's kind of our fault, so we'll go ahead and pay for the funeral. I think that's the precedent that this legislation states, because why would I pay taxes to pay for somebody else's funeral when I had nothing to do with anything that went down? Because this money is going to come from your taxes. It's just crazy.
Trying to bring gun violence against children to the forefront.
It's a good thing for the families to feel like, through everything that we have to go through with our child being murdered, that the state is now going to carry some of that burden for us.
Wow. And I'm not trying to diminish this young man's life, man. It's so sad. It's upsetting. We just did a story about a kid in New Orleans who was killed, and Shaquille O'Neal is going to pay for the funeral. These 2 kids look just alike. Okay? They look just alike, and it's sad that this is happening all over the place. Okay? The kid's name was Devin Page Jr. And now we got this young boy right here, and it's crazy, but at the same time, to pass a law that the state is going to pay for the funeral, it's just more dependency on the state, more dependency on the government. For it's really eerie, and to me, that's the government saying, hey, we're partly responsible for this happening, especially since they let everybody out, everybody and their mama who got a Free Him t-shirt out. And I guarantee the person who killed this young boy was out on another charge. You know, I just don't think it sends a good message.
Memory of Angela Gregg's son, 4-year-old Mychal Moultry Jr., could live on through a new law in Illinois. Mychal was shot and killed while visiting his father on Labor Day weekend 2021. Thanks to today's action, the state is now one step closer to helping lower-income families bury their children killed by gun violence.
It's very unfortunate that this actually has to become a law, that we actually have to ask the state to help us bury our children.
Well, the reason why it has to become a law, for one, you sisters push this. Y'all push the defund the police, the bail reform, the prison reform. Now everybody and their mama, like I said, who got a free him t-shirt is getting out in Chicago. Murderers, killers, carjackers, whatever, hustlers, it don't matter. Everybody's getting out. Everybody's getting a bond. You get a bond. You get a bond. You get a bond. Okay, now everybody's getting a bond because y'all sisters push this in, okay? Lori Lightfoot, sister. Okay? The DA, her name is slipping my mind right now. Kim Fox, sister. So y'all are in charge. So y'all are responsible for a lot of the things that are going down now. So that's the whole reason why this bill has to be passed. You know, it's crazy.
Gregg's family had to pay $13,000 for funeral expenses. She would have liked to have had her son buried. She settled for cremation instead.
What we had to do was called the Crime Victims Compensation Act, which is essentially reimbursement. However, here we are 7 months after my son was murdered, and we have not been reimbursed for those expenses.
The Mychal Moultry Jr. Funeral and Burial Assistance Act, authored by Senator Jacqueline Collins, just passed.
Jacqueline Collins, sister.
The House and Senate. She says the governor has 60 days to sign the bill. Illinois would provide up to $10,000 for funeral and burial of children who were murdered by a gun. 45 children were murdered by gun violence just in Chicago under the age of 17 in 2021. 14 have been murdered since the beginning of this year. Gregg says although her son is gone, his name lives forever.
It's a way to immortalize my son. You know, for his small life, he was only here for 4 years, but now, you know, my son will be remembered.
The National Association of Funeral Directors says the average cost for funerals with burials in 2021 is more than $9,400. Senator Collins says that they're pushing for a public signing for the governor to sign the bill. Reporting live at the museum campus, Sade Gray, CBS 2 News.
Thank you, Sade.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
Guess what? I could be at work, at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.